Tonight on Case 0360, case number 11. I'm Haley, and what you're about to hear is not just another true crime story. It's a double investigation that began with disappearances and ended in questions that still echo through courtrooms, police reports, and the families left behind. This is the case of Jasmine Pace and Megan Newton. Two young adults, two separate lives. Two tragic outcomes that investigators would eventually connect through a pattern of digital behavior, surveillance evidence, and forensic reconstruction. And as always in Case 0360, we ask one core question: how do the smallest digital traces lead to the truth behind the darkest crimes? It began, like many modern investigations do, not with witnesses, not with a confession, but with silence. Messages stopped being answered, phones went unreachable, social media activity went quiet. At first, it didn't immediately trigger alarm. After all, young adults sometimes step away from their routines. They travel, they disconnect, they need space. But as time passed, concern grew. Families began searching, friends began retracing steps, and eventually, law enforcement was called in. When investigators first looked into the disappearance of Jasmine Pace, they began with what is often the most important starting point in modern cases: her digital footprint. Because in today's world, people rarely disappear without leaving a trail behind. Messages, location data, app usage, social media timestamps. Every interaction becomes a potential clue. And in Jasmine's case, that digital trail would become central to understanding what happened. Investigators began reconstructing her final known movements: where she was last seen, who she last communicated with, what devices connected to nearby towers, what surveillance cameras captured in the surrounding area. Piece by piece, a timeline began to form, not complete at first, but slowly becoming clearer. At the same time, another case was developing: Megan Newton. A separate disappearance, a separate investigation, but one that would eventually be examined alongside similar patterns of concern. What makes cases like these especially challenging is the early uncertainty. Investigators must determine quickly whether a person is voluntarily missing or in danger. Every hour matters. Every lead matters. And in many cases, digital evidence becomes the most reliable starting point. Surveillance footage, in particular, plays a crucial role. Modern cities are covered in cameras, businesses, traffic intersections, apartment complexes, parking lots. Each frame of footage can provide a fragment of truth, a timestamp, a direction of travel, a vehicle identification, a brief interaction. In the investigation of Jasmine Pace, surveillance analysis helped narrow down critical time windows. It showed movements that matched reported last sightings. It helped investigators confirm locations and potential contacts. But footage alone is never enough. It must be combined with other evidence: phone records, digital messaging logs, forensic data from recovered devices. This is where modern investigations become deeply technical and often painstakingly slow. In both cases, Jasmine Pace and Megan Newton, investigators worked through mountains of data, sorting through communications, analyzing timelines, identifying inconsistencies, and building profiles of possible suspects. One of the most important breakthroughs in cases like these often comes from digital inconsistencies: deleted messages, sudden location changes, unexplained gaps in activity, devices going offline at critical moments. These patterns often reveal more than direct evidence, because silence in data is sometimes as telling as data itself. As the investigation progressed, authorities began to focus on reconstructing the final hours leading up to the disappearances. Where was each individual last confirmed alive? Who were they with? What digital interactions occurred just before their disappearance? In cases like this, investigators often describe the process as assembling a puzzle with missing pieces. You never see the full picture at first, only fragments. But over time, connections emerge, and those connections can lead to breakthroughs. Forensic teams also examine physical evidence when available, environmental clues, personal belongings, vehicle traces, any biological material that can help establish timelines or confirm presence at specific locations. Each piece contributes to building a clearer narrative. In high-profile investigations, even the smallest detail can become critical. A timestamp, a location ping, a camera angle, a text message sent at the wrong moment. As the two cases developed, investigators began comparing findings, looking for overlaps, looking for shared digital patterns, looking for behavioral indicators that could help explain what happened in each situation. What they found reinforced a growing reality in modern investigations. Digital evidence is no longer optional, it is essential. But even with advanced technology, solving such cases is never simple, because evidence must still be interpreted, and interpretation requires caution. Assumptions can lead to errors, patterns can mislead, and investigators must balance speed with accuracy. As the cases moved forward, law enforcement worked closely with forensic analysts, digital experts, and surveillance specialists, each expert contributing a different piece of understanding. And slowly, a clearer timeline emerged, not just of events, but of interactions, movements, and critical turning points. Eventually, investigators were able to identify key moments that shaped both cases, moments where intervention might have mattered, moments where evidence shifted direction, moments where the story changed from missing persons to criminal investigation. For families, however, the technical details matter less than the outcome. What they want most is clarity and justice, understanding what happened and why. And while investigations like these are often complex and ongoing, they represent a growing reality of modern law enforcement. Crimes today leave digital shadows, and those shadows can be followed, even when answers are not immediately visible, even when the truth is buried under layers of data. Case 0360. Case number 11 reminds us of one important fact. Behind every file, behind every data set, behind every surveillance clip, there are real people, real lives, and real consequences. As investigators continue working through evidence, the hope remains the same. That truth will eventually emerge, that justice will follow, and that the digital traces left behind will speak for those who no longer can. I'm Haley, and this has been Case 0360. If this case taught us anything, it's that in today's world, nothing disappears completely. Every action leaves a trace, and sometimes those traces are the only way to bring the truth to light. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next case.